Hello everyone, I'm Tamara and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to talk about borderline personality disorder from a non-borderline perspective and give you insight on what it feels like to someone who does not have borderline personality disorder when certain things are triggered in the borderline. So if everything is going fine and there's no triggers happening, then it's just like interacting with anyone else. But when the borderline gets triggered by abandonment issues or they start attaching too strong to a person, that triggers a non-BPD into a feeling of terror. They feel scared, they feel afraid, they don't know how to cope with what's coming at them, because it's kind of like you're scared, so now I'm scared. You heard something, so now I hear something. So now we're both trembling. So non-BPDs don't have the coping skills or the mechanisms to deal with that piece, okay? If that makes any sense. So, in other words, some of the things that someone with borderline personality disorder will do is they can attach too hard to a person and too quickly because they're afraid of abandonment. There was a lack of bonding. And the best way I can describe it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is it's kind of like how everyone feels when they're in a romantic relationship. You feel super attached, you still feel super bonded, you don't want to lose the person. If you think you're going to lose a person, you freak out, you feel upset, it's devastating. Breakups hurt really bad. My imagination is that borderlines can feel that with anyone that they're trying to attach to, whether it is a cousin, a mother, an uncle, a friend, a coworker, a neighbor, and they are looking for that missing piece. It's sort of like when you're in a romantic relationship and you're looking for your soulmate. When you find that person, something in you feels whole. It feels complete. It feels better. Like this emptiness is now fulfilled and it feels really good. Well, borderlines can have that same attachment to not only a love interest, but they can have that very quickly with a stranger, with someone that they haven't known very well. Like, this person is completing me. I say it's kind of like they're looking for their mother that they never potentially bonded with like they should have. And so for someone who is not a borderline, for someone to come on, it feels like someone is coming on very strongly to them. And not only that, it's like the clinginess is it's overwhelming. It's difficult for them to handle. It's not that they don't care, but they don't understand that, because in a non-borderline person's mind, we don't look at people like, you're going to leave me, I have to cling to you. We see people as more stable, which is what I want borderlines to see people as, is that most people are pretty loyal for the most part. They have friendships for long periods of time. They don't just bounce and leave people, and they don't think constantly about someone not being there. They just trust the process, that they just trust that people stay, people remain. They are not fleeting. They're gonna be there for them just like they're there for other people. But borderlines don't think that way. They are triggered into, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose this person. I really feel very attached, because the attachment was broken for a lot of borderlines at a very early age, or there was some abuse. So they're always looking for that missing piece to be filled by lots of people instead of just a love interest. But when you create that type of attachment with just a friend or a coworker or a neighbor, that it comes on way too strong, and it's very scary to the non-BPD. They don't understand what's happening, and it's like they feel your strong energy and they want to get away, run, escape, hide from the BPD. It's like you're clinging, you're pulling them in too closely, and that doesn't feel good. It feels unnatural. It feels like what's happening. Borderlines will sometimes start checking on the person, like they might call the person at work. They might start calling the person at 6 in the morning. They might show up at the person's door. They might show up at the person's job to see, hey, are you still here? I need to see if you're still existing because I'm afraid that you've disappeared. Well, for somebody who is not a borderline, they don't understand that type of behavior. They would never go to someone's job. They would never do those types of things because they know that you are still there. So it can feel like a feeling of being trapped, and they feel the non-borderline feels a strong need to get away, to defend themselves, to push the BP away. So that's number one. Number two, non-BPD has no coping skills to deal with the BPD's sensitivity to abandonment. They are not equipped to handle it because their normal coping skills do not work with the BPD. So if they're trying to give hints, give clues, they're trying to say, hey, this is too much, this is too close, or whatever they would, it doesn't work. Okay. So number three, they have to step back. The non-BPD has to learn to step back and calm down and not cope with overreactions, because they might start to freak out. They might start yelling. They might start acting out with the borderline because they're like, what are you doing? Like, this is too much. Get away from me. I don't like this. Can you stop? And then they start feeling very confused, very overwhelmed. And so they have to take a step back and try to calm down. Number four, clinginess. Because BPDs won't stop the offensive behavior, borderlines sometimes can't stop repeating behaviors. So they will do it over and over and over again. If someone says, no, I don't like this, then that means to stop. And we have to teach children that. We have to teach boys that. If a girl says no, even if she's giggling, it still means no, because you have to protect yourself and you have to respect boundaries. And borderlines, when they're in that mode of clinging and freaking out, and I don't want to lose you when I'm holding on too tightly, it's like they're not taking the cues, they're not accepting no, and you have to be clear with them that I mean no. Stop. Stop means stop. No means no. And the borderline has to learn how to take that information and accept it. Radical acceptance is the new term, where you radically accept things that maybe you don't want to hear, maybe that you feel like you can't handle, but by law, you are not allowed to harass people. And so you don't want the police to be called because you can't restrain that need to cling to someone who is asking you to clearly stop. Number five, when you ask someone to stop doing something, you need them to respect that. So I just pretty much covered that. Number six, you have to fail the borderline. In other words, the borderline is trying to make you their central person, their main person, their favorite person. You have to fail them. You can't be consistent with, okay, every time you need me, I'm here. Every time you call, I'm picking up. Every time you want to do something, I'm doing something with you. You have to quote unquote fail the borderline, in the sense that you can't meet their every need. You can't heal the hole. You can't heal the emptiness. You don't have the capacity to do that. Unfortunately, the borderline has to learn how to self-soothe and heal themselves from something that is not unfair, because they didn't create this within themselves, but then they're the ones who have to do the work to heal it. And to some extent, we all are tasked with that, because even if you don't have a traumatic childhood, there are probably a few things here and there that were damaging, whether it was a friend that was mean or you got rejected or heartbreak, whatever. There are things that every human is tasked with healing from. It's part of the human experience, and some do have it harder than others, but it's not your job as the non-borderline to save someone who has BPD. And so number 7, no means no. You don't want to rub the wound. So let's say you're like, okay, this friendship is freaking me out. I'm feeling nervous all the time, jumpy, like, okay, is this person just gonna pop up? Why are they calling me at 6 in the morning and ringing my phone like 25 times until I answer? Like, I cannot handle that. You, as the non-borderline, have the right to protect yourself, and you should set boundaries. And if you're noticing that type of behavior and you tell the person, I can't handle this, even if it's a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship with a borderline, you have the right to protect yourself and say, I'm done with this. Now, what you don't want to do is string the borderline along. Sometimes you have to be that person that fulfills their self-fulfilling prophecy, which is abandonment, because the things that they're doing are pushing people away because they're freaking out and they're scaring the non-borderline, right? And so you have to say, okay, this relationship is over. And over means over. It does not mean I talk every now and then to make them feel a little better. That's like giving somebody a crumb and it turns into an entire cake, right? No. So we go cold turkey. You don't answer phone calls. You don't answer the door. You don't invite to a show because, well, I'm feeling a little lonely, or let me try again and see if they got the message. No, you're making the situation get bigger instead of smaller. So you don't want to lead the borderline on, or anyone on for that matter. If the relationship is over, then it's over and it's time to move on. Cold turkey, straightforward, it's a wrap. You know what I'm saying? So if there was one area that, and I've made some other videos that I think will help you, check them out if you're a borderline. I've even had some people in the comments who are borderlines, and that's okay. You can express yourself, but they don't understand why, they keep revisiting someone who has said, leave me alone. I don't want communication with you. You have to accept that and work on that, because that's the piece that makes borderline seem irrational, scary. It gives borderlines a bad name. Those who are high functioning, they can handle these type of situations. Well, not necessarily. You can be high functioning and not handle the whole, like, clinging too tightly to somebody, not very well. It's the thing that keeps me from connecting with people with borderlines. As soon as I recognize that trait, I'm out, because I don't want them to start clinging, because that's a huge trigger for me. So got to work on that. And you also have to work on the rage. If you are raging at people, and that's a tricky one, because a lot of times the borderlines don't see themselves as raging or getting upset. They're not identifying with it, but you got to work on those things, because it's very scary to people who do not have the disorder. They don't understand what's happening or what's going on. And even people who are trained, those are the reasons why they don't want to work with borderlines or unfortunately help borderlines, because they don't want the person to be that clingy. I'm following you home. What is that? Like, no, most people do not handle that very well. Okay. So sometimes borderlines can get into relationships with narcissists. So if that's you, check out my book, The Workplace NaRCISSiST. It's about narcissists who are workaholics, and you can end up in relationships with them and it can be very toxic. Also, if you're just needing some relationship tips and you need a place to start, check out my book, Flip the Script on Love. There are some pointers and some tips in there that can help anybody to have a better and more respectful relationship. So I want to encourage borderlines, keep working at it, keep going. You do have our deepest compassion always. No one wants you to feel bad or to feel the sadness and the pain that you do. So just know that we're all rooting for you, but you've got to do the hard work, okay? So I want to encourage you, check out my other videos, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.